Okay, everybody, welcome to Be My Own Boss podcast. If you can hear this, that's a miracle given the complexities of learning a new broadcast platform software and syncing it up with Google and my however many accounts I have at Google. Anyway, I certainly hope you locate this stream eventually. Today, we want to talk about something that everybody can understand in Washington, and that's conflicts of interest between regular and governmental responsibilities and personal interests. We have as many of you know, we have a new nominee, and same nominee as last week, but a nominee to take over the position of Secretary of Labor in the soon-to-be Trump administration. This is a very powerful and very important position. It doesn't seem that way, but the workforce is, 168 million people. Probably includes you, certainly includes me. That is powerfully important, and the president-elect, Donald Trump, has nominated a Ms. Lori Chavez DeRemer of Happy Valley, Oregon, as the new nominee to come in as the new secretary. And she's an interesting person. She seems very pleasant. I haven't met her. I've seen maybe one or two videos in which she appears. That's the limit. But the thing that everybody can understand is that for a job of this much responsibility, you really have to come to the table with a clean slate background. And there is nothing wrong or illegal or unethical about Lori whatsoever. However, she's very fortunate. She is married to a doctor husband who is at least a part owner of a mid-sized services firm in the Portland area and the very fertile agricultural area to the southwest of Portland called the Willamette Valley. And Mr. Chavez DeRemer, or some variation on that, owns a contracting firm that contracts with certified, registered nurse anesthetists to do anesthesia work for instance, for childbirth and for surgeries of all type all over this region. So when a clinic or a hospital needs anesthesia coverage, and it can be handled by a nurse anesthetist, which is all a very legitimate profession, legitimate business, they will call on this firm. The name and the ethics and the skill of the firm are not in question. It's well established. They do 45,000, perhaps plus, anesthesia administrations very capably to patients just like you and me in the Northwest. I'm sure they're expanding. It's a good business. And Laurie is married to the head of it, and he has a share. I assume it's substantial because he was a co-founder, and she's worked with the firm on and off in a marketing capacity for some time. Recently, she was a Republican congresswoman from Happy Valley, a district southeast of Portland. And she was proposed to President-elect Trump by Sean O'Brien, who said she was terrific and proposed her for the job. And a day or two later, President Trump said, fine, I'm going to nominate her for Secretary of Labor. General shock and awe ensued. Nobody knows her. Nobody knows about her. People have been scrambling for some information. She's more or less a clean slate, which may suit people. But she does have this most important characteristic, a giant conflict of interest, because she and her husband, one way or another, make a substantial portion of their income off the independent, what is basically an independent contracting firm. Now, that in itself is not a problem, but when you combine that with responsibility for the boiling cauldron of issues that is the Department of Labor, particularly now, since the unions have proposed to get rid of independent contracting forever, completely in the United States, irrevocable. Lori's on the other side of it economically. Why did she accept? No one knows. She hasn't addressed this. I assume that she will address it with some vigor and some thorough once she's in the Senate chamber, being analyzed and considered in the Senate's advise and consent capacity. So here we've got someone, husband, the couple, the households, major income source, and fantastic asset base. I mean, this is a great place for her. Clashes completely with any kind of dispassionate judgment of what should happen to independent contractors. Now, I have a strong opinion of what should happen to independent contractors and to Lori's firms. They should be freed up to do this work without threat from any other outside force, including government and including private corporations called unions. So here we are, folks, and everyone in the country who's of voting age can understand conflict of interest. This is not a trivial claim about her. Everyone knows that if she owns a company that sells independent contractors, she's got an interest. She can't walk away from it. She can't divorce it. She can't say, well, it's my husband's. I don't own any shares. She's married. They're a couple. Their assets go together in the public eyes, regardless of what state law or local law is in Portland. It's hers. She's in it. She can't walk away from that. If she chooses to exempt it, for instance, and be cold-hearted about it and just choose her, that's going to drive all the professions will be upset. I mean, there are no good answers. If she says, well, we independent contract, so everyone should be, then the entire labor left will scream, oh, she's just plowing the same furrow that she's, in government, that she's plowed out in the private sector. And we're going to change this. We're going to change this any way we can. We'll change it with legislation. We'll override it. And they will be instantly at war. And if it takes them 4 years to come back and be the next president, they'll get rid of it. And so it's not a situation, if pursued to completion and she becomes the nominee, it's not a situation that makes any sense and provides any kind of stability to this vast part of the workforce called independent contractors. I'm an independent contractor. Likely, if you're watching this, you're an independent contractor. So we need something. Now, what is actually going to happen if she's nominated, if she's approved and confirmed by the Senate? Well, the first thing is, when independent contracting comes up, every lawyer in the country will say, you've got to recuse yourself, conservative or liberal. The lawyers are going to say that you've got to recuse yourself. Obviously you've got a self-interest. So if she does take the position and does recuse herself, as justice calls for, she has become, for one of the major two battles in labor right now, a figurehead. She will step back and allow subordinates that she's able to appoint. So she can't actually appoint subordinates and to get around her situation. But anyway, there will be individuals under her that will make these decisions, and she just can't talk with them about it. So That's what a figurehead is. So the actual appointments that are important are the ones that she hasn't made and really can't make, of subordinates to fill the independent, the different divisions of the Labor Department. And there are 31 of them to fill, plus possibly affecting the positions under those too, and those are extensive because they're deputies and sub-deputies, and it's very complicated in DC. So her subordinates are going to be unknown. Who knows who they're going to be? And couldn't the Senate confirm those? But the Senate's not required to. Plus, Lori can't avoid this conflict. She can't divorce her husband and get rid of it. It can't happen that fast. I don't think, I certainly wouldn't recommend it. It seems that the butter on her bread is on the independent contracting side. So, and I don't particularly want her to stay in and make that change, because everyone will howl that it was conflicted. It was illegitimate. That's not what independent contractors need. They need a solution that grants them legitimacy instead of having to fight the entire labor law apparatus single-handedly and one at a time, one mom, one dad at a time. Ridiculous. So if she stays and she's going to wind up with a very weak hand. This is not the ideal kind of person to head any bureaucracy, let alone a labor bureaucracy. She'll be distrusted by the people with her, or just ignored, and she will wind up isolated, lonely, passing messages back and forth between unions and Congress and her staff. And she will think back to that time when she was merely a former federal representative of Congress with great affection, thinking, I should have just stopped then. So the important thing to keep in mind is this is a situation where the ship is definitely headed onto the rocks. I would earnestly entreat her to withdraw her name from the nomination, thank President Trump, thank Sean O'Brien, and let some other soul with more experience in the bureaucracy and less of an interest conflicting with her role as a Secretary of Labor, and go about her business. Maybe run for Congress again if she wants. Switch parties and run as a Democrat. It's Portland, So she has all kinds of options, include doing nothing. Go back to the firm and help them expand to be 150,000 anesthesia treatments in the entire Northwest from Nevada on up. So it looks like what I would like you to do is, if you could email your senator and say, and your name, and I'm your constituent, and I think you should vote against Lori Chavez DeRemer, because I think she has a huge conflict of interest. It's the conflict between her family business, an anesthesia subcontracting firm, and her duties as a Secretary of Labor. Anyway, I would now like to thank you very much. Say we will see you on the next episode. I hope to get more in sync with our startup routine. So anyway, reply in the chat. I'll look forward to responding to your questions and your suggestions. And stay independent. Keep contact. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.